Welcome back, 719. After 7 years of decline, the U.S. birth rate is back up, and August seems to be the busiest month for birth. So if you're an expecting parent, planning your baby budget now could save you from the shock that comes with all the expenses that babies require. And here with more on how to save for baby is president of Suttle Financial, Mike Suttle. Mike, you're giving me some sticker shock here. The figure that you've come up with is unbelievable.
I didn't come up with it.
Now, but you've totaled up some things that at least that
right.
parents need to save for. So we just had a baby 5 months ago. I can already tell you that it's expensive month to month. So it's good to be prepared, right?
It is.
How so? How much should parents be prepared to spend on a new baby?
Well, studies show now, a new study just out actually says that it takes about $18,000 a year for 2 kids to go to daycare. And takes about $300,000 to raise a child to age 17, and that's not counting college.
College is not included.
No.
So the total figure there, if you do all the math, $300,000-ish?
Yep.
It's about right. Okay. So the biggest expense there, is it actually daycare?
Daycare.
Yeah.
Yep.
Per month?
Yep, per month.
All right, so what's the most important thing when planning for this $300,000 figure?
Well, one thing is to make a budget. Start thinking ahead. Start to plan for the numbers. What are the numbers going to be? What is it going to really cost? Run the numbers.
Mm-hmm.
There's a calculator on the U.S. Department of Agriculture website. It's a real simple cost of raising a child calculator.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a link to that on my website at SuttleFinancialGroup.com, but that's a great place to start. And just begin to run those kind of numbers and see what it's going to take. Another thing is to decide child care. This is a biggie. In other words, is one parent going to stay home, or both parents going to work? This is a big decision because child care can be very expensive. Does it make more sense for one to stay home or not?
Mm-hmm.
The thing is that if one does stay home, guess what happens? One of those incomes is lost.
Yes.
And then that becomes sort of like an expense, doesn't it?
It sure does.
Because you just lost that expense.
Mm-hmm.
So, this can be very problematic. Another thing is to build a cash cushion. Now, what do I mean by that? That means that 3 to 6 months of emergency funds should be set aside. We recommend that to all of our clients, at least that much. And start thinking about what are the costs going to be and start living today for those costs. In other words, if you're planning to have a baby, start living like you had that baby and start putting that money away. Save some money, use a baby jar. In fact, I brought a jar here. When I was growing up, Adam, this was about the baby jar size that it took to raise a baby.
Okay.
Okay. I got news for you. It takes a jar about this big now to raise a baby. So this is important to be putting that money aside. Also, consider a term life insurance policy. And the reason I bring that up is that a lot of young couples don't think of that in case something would happen. If one of them should pass away or both, how is that capital going to be provided? In other words, if it takes that big jar now, if one of you were gone, how are you going to come up with that money? The
interesting part here, though, is it really is about baby steps. Yes, because I think that can be very overwhelming, any of the ideas even for saving for later for a baby. So it's just start small? Start small, but start planning. Don't just take it for granted that everything's going to be okay. There's a lot of unexpected expenses that can come up. For example, deductibles for health care. Sure. Babies need to go to the doctor a lot. They sure do. And deductibles add up 6 to 12 times a year in the first year or two to visit a doctor. Plus, now with different health care plans, some of these deductibles are very, very high. And Adam, let me ask you this question. How many diapers does it take to support a baby in a year? I don't even know the count. You should know this now. Well, I just saw the graphic that said over almost 3,000. So that's a lot, and it's expensive. We will allow you to go to Suttle Financial and get more information from them. KRQE.com is a good way to go. We'll be right back. Don't go anywhere.